All right, good afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Brian Good here. Yes, spots, bring on the snow. We've got snow in the forecast. I know it's not a lot of snow, but snow lovers, of course, are excited, including this one right here. In fact, I've got my snow tie ready to go. I know, I'm a big geek. But, hey, this is not a lot of snow, but to have the first measurable snow a month ahead of schedule is impressive. And the cold air, I've mentioned this several times, and it's true. The cold air is the bigger story than the snow. I mean, to see temperatures in the teens in some spots coming up. It's not record territory. Record for Louisville, by the way, for later tonight and tomorrow morning is actually, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, the record for Louisville is right around 17. I don't think we'll get that cold in the city, but outlying areas, it's possible. But, definitely a cold start. Let's talk about the snow part first, and then we'll get into the temperature aspect of things. We'll start you off with the latest here on the radar. And notice already some showers now begin to break out across areas of central Indiana. Some of this may not be reaching the ground entirely just yet, but it's going to work its way to the ground in the next several hours. Otherwise, we're going to mix of sun and clouds here across areas of Kentuckiana. The main front itself is still pretty far to our north. We've got a band of snow now lining up across areas of Iowa into Chicago now, moving into areas of the southern Michigan. That is where most of the moisture is. The front is actually way ahead of where the moisture is. That allows the cold air to catch up with the precipitation and change it over to snow. Usually we get the moisture ahead of the front, and it usually doesn't always change the snow here in time. Usually the rain's out of here by the time the cold air catches up with it. That's usually what happens here in Kentuckiana, but this is a reverse scenario here. The moisture is behind the front, so that's why we're talking about snow chances in the area. Let's go over some of the models here. This is the latest look here at our RPM, our Futurecast model, taking you into about 10 o'clock for tonight. Notice primarily rain, southern Indiana, temperature 50 here in Louisville. You see that rain-snow band just to the north of us, though. As that advances a little further, as we head into the midnight time frame, I think we'll start to see the flakes mix in and change over to snow in our far northern counties. Temperatures then into the lower 30s in a few cases. Still all plain rain, though, in Kentucky, but temperatures into the 40s. Then things get interesting by the time we head into 3:30 in the morning. That is when the cold air will catch up. It rushes in pretty fast and catches up with the moisture that's over us, changes it all over to snow. Now, you see these darker shades here of purple that are showing up. There's a chance there could be some areas of moderate snow that could mix in here. If we get moderate snow, these numbers will be lower than what we're showing. They could actually be 2 to 3 degrees lower, in fact, which will put us very close to the freezing mark for many of us. So that is where we're talking about the chance for some light accumulations and or slick spots that may develop on side roads or bridges and overpasses. The main roads, though, should be just plain wet. Ground temperatures are pretty warm. But elevated surfaces will feel the effects of a freezing temperature if we get to that point, and there could be a few slick spots. So just a heads up there. But 3:30 appears to be the target time for most of us along the I-64 corridor. Then, as we head into 5:30 in the morning, still got some snow along and south of 64. It's mainly a Kentucky event at this point by 5:30. Those of you in Indiana, the snow will be over with, but temperatures will be at or below freezing. So watch for slick spots for some of the moisture that still could be on the roadways. On the Kentucky side, though, it's snow. And again, if it's moderate snow, these numbers will be a couple degrees colder than we're showing, and that will put us very close to that freezing potential. So just a heads up there to watch out. Nothing widespread. Just be careful, as always. Be cautious whenever it is snowing outside. At 9:30 in the morning, the last of the snow hanging on tight here across Adair County. Elsewhere, sun is breaking out. And temperatures, though, it ain't going to help much with that sunshine. Temperatures barely below the freezing mark as we head into the morning hours, and it's not going to recover. Even with a full day of sun tomorrow, temperatures will stay in the 30s, and it will be windy, so wind chills will be a factor. All right, let's talk about accumulations. Here's the GFS model. It is indicating at least an inch of snow potentially for the bluegrass area. That is possible. I would not rule that out because this is a higher elevation area, and they have the best chance to see some moderate snow bursts every now and then. So 1 inch is reachable in this area. Elsewhere, included here in Louisville, 1 inch is going to be much more of a struggle. I think half inch is probably going to be more likely. But again, it only takes one heavier burst to change that for some backyard out there for you guys, and it could be your backyard. You never know. But overall, pretty light amounts of snow is what we're talking about. Go through the European model. It has shown mainly about a half inch of snow generally for most of the area. Switch over now to the NAM model, and it is hold on tight here for the actual potential for an inch of snow in a few cases. But again, you see the general roll is the bluegrass area, lesser amounts on the southwest side of that, and I think that trend will continue. And lastly, here is the RPM model, and it shows this very similar story. So we've got good agreement here in the models that the best chance to get 1 inch of snow will be the bluegrass area. This would also include Shelby County, portions of Henry County, Carroll County, Franklin County. You guys have the better shot to see maybe an inch. Elsewhere, it's going to be less than an inch, mainly a half inch, and even a few spots here you see where the bare ground is, you may not get much at all to actually fall. So that's part one of the deal. Do want to mention that as the snow passes by, there will be a strong northerly wind here off of Lake Michigan. So there will be a few snow showers that will, we call this lake effect snow, that will stream off of Lake Michigan. How far south this goes is a big question mark, but I would not rule it out for those of you across Jennings County and perhaps even toward Carrollton. You could see a few snow flurries into Tuesday afternoon. Just a heads up there. It will not accumulate, should not be a big issue, but it is a possibility. Elsewhere, I think sunshine will be pretty dominant in the area. All right, now let's talk about the cold weather. Here are the forecast lows as we head into Wednesday morning. This will be the coldest morning of the entire period. And we've got temperatures in the lower 20s in many spots, but I would not rule out a few upper teens that can be found. I think Louisville will hold steady into the lower to mid-20s, as usually the case. We're the warmer spot. I think that'll hold true for Wednesday as well. And as insult to injury, it will be the wind chills. For tomorrow morning, while it's snowing, especially off to the south, wind chills will potentially be into the upper teens. And even for Tuesday afternoon, wind chills in the 20s outside with sunshine. Man, it's going to feel like January out. And then as we head into Wednesday, wind chills around 14 degrees as you head towards Salem, and even wind chills in the teens in our southern county. So dress the kids up, certainly, for Tuesday and Wednesday morning. It is looking pretty chilly. All right, one last thing I got to cover is going to be the long-range outlook here. I mentioned this yesterday. As we head into the 18th of the month, the pattern is showing, this is the European again, it's holding strong on the idea of a strong cold front in the Plain States, which means a warm-up for us this weekend and early next week. Behind it, a surge of Arctic air will be building in. Now, here's where things, I think, will evolve, and I think the European has got a really good idea of what usually happens here. Once we hit it to about the 20th of November, the Arctic air, the core of it, will just graze us as we head into the 20th. The core of it should stay across the Great Lakes in the Northeast, with a small little chunk kind of laid behind. That is important because what I think will likely happen here as we get into the 20th is that the Southeast Ridge will try to hold strong here across the southeast part of the country. The jet's going to get hung up in this area. When that happens, let me change my marker here so you can see the color. Hold on one second. Sorry about this. Let's change it to purple. Maybe we can see purple a little bit better. Can y'all see that? Maybe not. Let's change it to blue. Blue's probably a better idea. Hold on one second. Sorry. The things you got to do for computers. Okay, we'll change it to purple here, or blue. What I think will happen is this little pinch that's taking place here across Texas and Oklahoma. I think what will happen is an area of low pressure is going to develop here in the Gulf of Mexico and then ride up the southeast part of the country. With this cold air in place, that is going to make the forecast very interesting for areas of Oklahoma, heading to Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky, of course, will be right there on the edge of that. But stay tuned. That is a potential. It's not a sure thing. And, of course, it is way off in the distance. And we usually don't want to talk about models that far out. But I do think that the European is on to a good idea of what I think is likely to happen for the week of the 18th. It's going to be interesting, certainly. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a written blog coming up here in the next few moments. The new European model is actually rolling in right now. And I'll update that with maps from the European and talk more about the snow potential for tonight. So not a big snow. Just be careful out there in the morning hours, and by all means, get the gloves out and the scarves. You're going to need them for the next couple of days. Have a good one.